SPAC friends and family, and today we are connecting on Instagram and Facebook and our LinkedIn page, also on YouTube, and also premiering on Matt's group high volume page, Crank It Up the Volume. So welcome all of our SPAC friends and family. It is Tuesday, it's 2:00 here on the West Coast, and it's time for SPAC Chat. We will be having a Tech Tuesday once a month, and Matt will be our host for these Tech Tuesdays. We're going to be talking about anything that is photography related and tech tools that may not be photography related, but still a benefit to your business. So ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to your host for the hour. It's Matt the Body.
And the crowd goes wild. Ah! Thank you, Corey. I'm excited to present to you guys today. One of the things that when I got an opportunity to be on the board for SPAC, one of the things that I brought to the board to talk about was I wanted to talk about this idea of discussions of ongoing technology within our industry, and the things that we can be doing, the tools that are coming available to us. Like, seems almost like monthly, there's new really cool tech coming around, and things are changing and evolving so quickly. So I thought one of the things that I could bring to this organization is just talking about some of the newer tools that we have at our disposal and how we're implementing them in our business, and see how everyone else is using it as well. And so one of the things that we were talking about, we're kicking around ideas on how to do this, was I am a prolific chat GPTer, and I use it all the time for both business and personal and professional stuff. And so I kind of wanted to share with you guys some of the ways that we're using this tool, some of the ways that if you haven't used it, you can get started. And if you are using it, how you can kind of focus that tool to get you the better results that you may need. And so for those of you who don't know what ChatGPT is, it is an AI system. It's an it is an AI system. It's enhancing customer. It's a chat-based AI that you can input you talk to it, and it gives you human-like responses. So one of the ways that we use it the most, one of the ways that we've seen the biggest implementations is actually in our customer service and communications with with employees, customers, and accounts. We're using it to draft emails, produce reports, write our surveys for us. We're using it to facilitate development of code writing in some cases, and some other really, really exciting things. One of the things that's kind of hard to believe is I'm super brief when it comes to emails. I am so busy and we are so slammed and we're running all around that a lot of times, one of the things that gets me is I want to write an email, and if you email with me, really what I want is, Matthew, I need this, and then I will get you this and send it to you. And I'm trying to be brief because I just generally don't have time for the fluff. And sometimes my briefness can actually come off as rudeness. And that's obviously not something that is a look that we're going for. So one of the ways that we'll use it to, I'm going to do a screen share here and kind of walk you guys through some of the tools and the prompts that we use. Let me go ahead and do screen share. And we are going to go right here. Okay. What up, Jeff Allen? All right. So this is ChatGPT. One of the things that's important to know is that ChatGPT is produced by a company called OpenAI. OpenAI is kind of revolutionizing AI and producing it releasing this out to everyone. So one of the things you need to know about ChatGPT is when you post within this, you're releasing you're kind of releasing this out to the world. So you have to be really aware of what you're pulling down from this and what you're pushing up to it. But let's just pretend that I was going to start a new chat and I needed to send an email to my good buddy, Jeff Allen, because Jeff Allen was supposed to send me a report. Now, typically I would just say, hey, Jeff, where's that report? But it could come off super rude. So what I like to do is you have to give ChatGPT kind of direction. You have to tell it how it's operating and what it's trying to do. So one of the things I like to do whenever I'm writing an initial email or reaching out to somebody, I will just write, I need to send Jeff Allen an email reminding him about a report that he was supposed to send me a week ago. I want this to be written conversationally, and give him a deadline of the end of day. Please make sure it's written nicely.
Nicely.
So it'll go in.
Just have a question really quick, Matt. Are you showing us right now the paid version or the free version?
I have the pay version. It's like $20 a month.
Okay.
And so it'll go in and write an email for me, and it'll say, "Hi, Jeff. I hope this message finds you well. I just want to touch base regarding the report we discussed last time. I remember you had some interesting insights to share, and I'm keen to see how they've shaped up in the final document. I understand how busy things can get, and time flies quicker than we sometimes anticipate. If it's not too much trouble, would it be possible for you to send it over to me by the end of the day? It'd be great to review it and incorporate any necessary details into our ongoing work. If there's anything you need from me to wrap it up, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help. Thanks so much for your attention on this, and looking forward to your insights in that report. Warm regards." So for me to write that, it's just allows me to put my disjointed ADHD thoughts out. This is what I need from you. Can you write this in a nice email? And most of the time when we go in and do this, we do end up having to kind of go in and edit it, because it can give you very much like a robotic response, and or something that's not going to sound like you. So some of the things that I like to do, I always put in conversationally is how I want the email written, because that's how I typically communicate, even when it's written. But let's say Jeff is not my buddy, and this is a professional email. I can write, rewrite this message.
So it's conversational. So it's not having to make a new prompt every time. ChatGPT is going to take the stuff it just gave you and then edit it, correct?
Yep. And now I'm telling it that I want this to be written more professionally and more assertively. Dear Mr. Allen, I hope you are well. I'm writing to follow up on the report that was due last week. As per our previous discussion, the insights you proposed to include are crucial for the progression of our current project. And as such, their timely submission is imperative. Please be advised that the deadline for the submission has been set for the end of day. This will allow us to proceed with the necessary review and integration process without further delay. Should you require any assistance or additional resources to complete this task, I encourage you to inform me at your earliest convenience. Your prompt attention to this matter is greatly appreciated. Keenly awaiting your value. So you can see that going in, and you can steer how this conversation is going to go. You can also go back and say, I like to use, sometimes when I'm reaching out to new schools or new accounts, I like to use business casual as the writing style, as a business rewrite business casual and conversational. And it'll go in and give me another breakdown. So one of the things that's kind of beautiful about this is it goes in and it allows you to find your words. This isn't going to necessarily write things for you, but it does give you a tool to be able to find your message faster, which is huge, especially for someone like me who's, I always joke, I'm like, the only book I like to read is Facebook. So this is one use that we use. One of the other things that I've done with this is, if you guys ever get, let's say you had a job and things just didn't go right, and a parent's really mad and you are frustrated with this email and you get a really assertive email written to you. Or sometimes you're dealing with a parent who's really not happy with you and you are trying to provide really great customer service, but you also don't really agree with some of the things they're saying. So you have to kind of put on your good customer service face, even though you personally think it's kind of obnoxious. One of the things that I've found with this is that I'll just copy the email from my email and I make sure that I leave out customer name, account name. I copy that email and I just paste it into here. And I say, give me a summary of this email along with a list of questions that you need to answer. So that give me a list of questions so that we can reply to this. And ChatGPT will then go through and say, customer's curious why this happened. Customer's curious how you're going to fix it. Customer's curious about this and this and this. And it'll give me 5 or 6 questions. And I can go into those and I can literally just go in and write number 1. This happened because an employee didn't follow our procedures and we missed a team because they didn't check in correctly. What are we going to do about this? We're going to have an ongoing discussion with the employees about this. We're going to train it. We're going to send a camera crew out to pick up the missing team. So I can just write those answers. And then once you do that, it'll actually build me the reply. And what's nice about that for me is sometimes like small business is personal business. And sometimes it's really hard. Like my passion bubble is close to the surface and I get upset and I'm like, and not like angry, but just like upset and I'm bummed and it like stays with me all day. This allows me to be able to kind of take a lot of the emotion out and give a really well thought out response without kind of stirring up those feels, which is huge, which is another thing we can kind of, it's amazing.
Picking those words when you're a little upset or flustered can be hard. So you're right.
Yeah. And one of the things that we kind of talked about initially too is we talked about prompts. And so prompts are kind of interesting ways that you're going to steer ChatGPT into, you're telling it how to act. And so sometimes I'll say, you're an expert customer service, or you are an amazing salesman in high volume sports and school photography, or you're a CFO and I want you to review this plan. And so you kind of give it directions. But one of the things that's actually one of my favorite prompts to use is like, I can actually go into ChatGPT and say, I need to write a prompt. Can you help me
asking GPT to write a prompt? That's great.
Prompt. And then it'll go in and say, of course. And so then it'll say like, I need to send a cold email to a new potential client. So then it'll help you start building out all of your prompts and have you start doing things, or help you start kind of going in. So you can have it write the prompts for you and then also bring it in to help you craft these emails, especially if you're just trying to find ways to reach out to people. I do have some like handwritten notes here that I want to make sure that I'm going over everything. So we talked about, we use it to enhance customer service. It allows us to give, like, I don't want to say automated responses, but it allows us to have our customer service team write our messages in a way that we want written. It allows us to provide our customers with a more empathetic response and ensuring that they feel heard. We are very, very aware of what we do put on there. So we would never go on and say, Dale Williams from this association is mad. We would never put like personal information.
Matt, let me ask you a question. So you avoid like personal names, personal businesses, anything that might be a little bit maybe city. Do you steer away from city or location, or what would be some of your stuff?
I try to remove identifiable stuff. Like I try to remove anything so that you could try to send it back to that person. That I don't want that. Right. Okay. But it's a big deal because like Samsung had one of the biggest mess ups of AI, period. Huge, because anything you put into this, it's open, it's out there. Okay. Now they do have this new option. It's called Enterprise, and that does kind of allow you to wall off a garden and keep your content safe. I'm not on that version yet. I've applied for it. Now, when we get to that, what would be interesting is theoretically your data is encrypted and secure, so you could almost use it to like create a chat bot for parents to look up links. You could do that. There's no way you can do it right now because you would be releasing all of your student data out to the world.
Yeah.
And so Samsung, like the Samsung, was trying to go out and work on code, and they uploaded all of their proprietary code to ChatGPT, and they said, and they asked for ChatGPT to see if the code was written well or had any suggestions. Well, they gave away all of the secrets on how they were making their chips and all of the code that was written, and they just gave it out to the world. So making sure that you are aware of the potential pitfalls are huge. There's some ethical and legal considerations that are pretty massive. So make sure that you're doing that. But we use it for our customer service. We use it for producing, drafting new emails, even looking through some reports. We will use it to I had to set up a meeting. We're doing a leadership meeting, and I use it to write my agendas for the meetings all the time. And so I'll go in and I'll say, hey, I have to facilitate a meeting. These are the things we want to cover. These are the departments. These are who's going to be in it. These are the things I want to make sure. And it'll produce a meeting agenda for me like that. And so there's a lot of uses that we use it in our actual business operations to speed things up and make it work easier. And the future of this like tool is only getting greater. Like they're putting more stuff into it. One of the things that kind of freaked me out a little bit, actually, is there's an app on iPhone now. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to talk and I want to have a conversation. So now on the app for ChatGPT, you see the little headphone thing down there in the corner? So if I tap that, whoops. If I tap that, it brings up my own ChatGPT guy.
Oh.
And then I can go, hey, I need your help. I'm trying to put together a presentation on ChatGPT to explain to photographers some of the advantages using your software can be. Can you give me a quick pitch on some of the things we can use ChatGPT for?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help you with that. ChatGPT can be an incredibly useful tool for photographers in several ways. 1, inspiration and ideas. I can help photographers brainstorm ideas for photo shoots, including themes, locations, and compositions. If you're looking for a specific style or trying to capture a particular mood, I can suggest ideas that might spark your creativity. 2, technical assistance. I can offer advice on camera settings, lighting techniques, and post-processing tips. 3, portfolio feedback. While I can't see images, if you describe your work or specific aspects of your photos, I can offer suggestions on how to present them effectively or ways to enhance your portfolio. This could be particularly useful for photographers looking to refine their style or niche. I can also assist in drafting emails, proposals, or promotional materials. 5, learning and development. I can provide information on photography techniques, the history of photography, and profiles of influential photographers. This can be a great way for photographers to learn about their craft.
So this allows me to have a dialogue too. Sometimes I think my friends get bored talking to me because we end up just talking about business all the time. So sometimes I can even go on to this software and I can say like, I need your help. I'm trying to think of clever ideas to reach out to new clients that are school administrators and principals. What would be a creative way for me to reach out to try to sell my services? I'm a high volume school and sports photographer.
Reaching out to school administrators and principals in a creative way can definitely set you apart. Considering your role as a high volume school and sports photographer, how about creating a personalized video or a digital portfolio that highlights your best work in school and sports photography?
So what's crazy, Corey, is that we can take that and we literally just say, I love that idea. Can you write me a script for a video to send a potential principal describing our school photography work? And it'll go through and actually create scripts for you. It's really, really, really powerful tool. I don't know if that is, I feel like that was a lot to kind of go through, but I think it's important to kind of show some of the things that you can do with this. Does that make sense?
Yes. Like, there's so many uses. We were having this discussion. Obviously, many of you know my husband's an educator, and so many teachers were like, oh my God, everyone's going to be cheating. Okay, it's cheating. And my husband's like, no, did you have a math class and they didn't allow you to use a calculator because that was cheating? Your math teacher told you that you weren't always going to have a calculator, so you better know how to do the math. We now have a calculator, folks. We don't need to do that. It's about what's going to save you time and sometimes money, right?
100%. And employees that are using AI effectively are working faster. There's all these studies that are going to show you that this is the way of the future. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. And so these are some of the ways we're using it. Some of the other things that we're looking at is we have these photos over time that we do. Photos over time require us to, it's a surprisingly manual process for us, where we go through archived images. We go through archived images of, the last 5 or 6 years of hockey images and produce like a file. So we're actually we're experimenting with actually having ChatGPT write some code for us to be able to automate this process. It's super interesting, and it allows me to get into a place that we could never have thought of going years ago. Let me see if I can find one for you too. We went to, I'm going to pull open, let me share my screen with you. One of the things that we also use is I picked up on Kickstarter I think probably 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago, this thing called Plod. And so Plod is a device that goes on the back of your phone. And it just clips onto the back of your phone. It'll record phone calls and meetings, and it allows you to record. Now they just did a firmware update, up to 5 hours of meetings. I use it all the time. I use it all the time when I'm driving around. If I have a call with a league or a principal and we're going over details and I don't want to forget something, I'll record the phone call. It'll then, at the conclusion of the phone call, when I get to my destination, I pull over, I download, I hit transcribe on it. It takes all the notes, it transcribes them into it, gives me a summary. And then I email my principals and I say, hey, I just wanted to confirm the phone call that we just had. This is what we covered. This is what we talked about. So I have a paper trail on it. It's instantaneous. It doesn't take me except 45 seconds of clicking around, and then I'm able to send them stuff. And we've actually been playing around with it in some long format meetings too. I just went and did a superintendent's conference, and a guy did a really cool meeting. It was on how do we as administrators deal with differing polarized political viewpoints. So like, how are we going to go in and have people, how do I change it to the other screen here? How do we go in and have, like, with such extreme political opinions going on and everything being as polarizing as it is, how are we going to have dialogues that are meaningful? So I recorded the session because it was really interesting. And then what I did was I take the initial summary that it gives me. I say, you just attended a meeting on the polarization of political views in education. Ask me as many questions as you need to give me a complete summary of this meeting. And then I give it the summary that the Plod device gave me. So I just copy and paste.
So you took it from Plod and downloaded it, and then you uploaded it into ChatGPT, or copied and pasted.
Correct. And then it gives me 8 questions. But here's the thing. I don't even read these 8 questions. I just go back. I take the full transcript and I go, here's a complete transcript. Does this answer everything? So I copy the whole transcript and dump it in there. And then it comes back and it says, thank you for providing such a detailed transcript of your meeting on the polarization of political views in education. Here's a comprehensive summary. And then it goes through and I say, can you reformat that? can you reformat this into much more detail and a summary with key bullet points? It goes in, talks about the overview of political polarization, talks about the impact and analysis of it, gives you strategies for addressing polarization, initiatives and case studies, future directions. And then I say, can you make this more in depth? Don't leave out any details. And it'll even go into more detail. And then there's even crazier things that you can do with this, Corey, too, because at the end of it, you can even go in and say, can you make this a Word document? And it'll convert that into a file that I can download and pull into.
Open it in Word and then edit it if you need to, or do whatever, or share it as a PDF or a Word document with anybody. Oh my God, that's amazing.
So yeah, and the question about
how much are those little devicey thingies? Give everybody kind of a price point.
Legal or moral to record without permission. In Minnesota, we're a single consent state, like was mentioned. So legally, yes. But to be honest with you, I would never use this in a legal situation. Like this would never be something that we're not using this to gotcha. We're using this instead of trying to write down pen and paper while we're driving. So it's but yeah, and oftentimes when I'm using it, I tell people, hey, I'm going to record this. We'll let them know too when we go into meetings and we sit down. But yeah, so there it is.
We used it for Matt. We used it for our board meeting at SPAC in January because we all had a printed agenda, but we needed to record notes, and it's hard when there's so many people talking too, which was great.
It's not just that. It's kind of like one of the things that I like to talk about is like, I talk about when we switched to mirrorless cameras from a mirrored camera. I was like, God, it was so crazy to be able to not have to I used to have to worry about hitting the focus on the eye. And I'd have to make sure that we're like looking through the camera. So when you're trying to photograph these kids, you got this big black thing in your face because you have to look through the viewfinder. When we went to mirrorless cameras, the technology is so great on all of them, whether it's Panasonic, Sony, Canon, Nikon, that they don't hit the autofocus anymore. So now when I'm photographing kids, I can talk to the kid. It allows me to be engaged. This allows me to be more engaged in meetings, and I can be more involved and more engaged and have better conversations because I'm not looking down and writing, and I'm also not missing details. But yes, it does. I could understand how not sharing that you're recording it and not doing that could definitely put you in an awkward and uncomfortable position with some customers. But then boom, it built me the Word doc of it. It's done. You can even say convert it as a PDF, and it'll make you a PDF that you can print out. It's pretty spectacular stuff. Caution details, ethical considerations and limitations changing. Okay. Some of the other things like that I would use this for is we have been blessed to be growing at a pretty crazy clip. And so our one of the things that was really frustrating, like learning how to do well, was write a bid. And to learn how is the best way to go in and write an RFP. Like I remember the first time I got an RFP, Corey, I have one copy of my first RFP. I have a single copy.
God.
It's printed out. It is so horrible. It is so horrible. It humbles me. And so whenever I'm feeling like really prideful or cocky, I like to go and read that and realize how horrible I was when we started this. But back when we first started writing RFPs was like 12 years ago was when we first started trying to get into the school business. It took us 4 years before we got anyone to bite. And so when we started writing our RFPs, when I would sit down to write an RFP, I'm not a writer. It's just not my talent. And so I hired it out. I hired a grant writer. And so we had a grant writer who worked with us for years, and we kind of crafted an RFP message that we were proud of. And finally, we started hitting a couple. And then once you got into it and you started kind of refining your story and how things work, it's not difficult for us to write a really good RFP now. But when I talk to people that are trying to get into this industry, people that were that are where I was 12, 13 years ago. Oh my God, I would have killed for this tool. Like this would have been the most amazing thing to be able to sit down and say, like, I need to answer this question. How do I answer this question? Or here's my answer to this question. How do we build it out to be a complete answer to what they're doing? Some of the other things that I like to do with it is also whenever I'm writing stuff for my own business, I will ask it at the end of the answer that it gives me. I'll say, did we miss anything? And then it'll tell me all the things that like it thinks we could also add into it. And the other thing is, like, if I'm writing a proposal, or if I'm writing an email soliciting business, or if I'm trying to negotiate things, I will always ask it to play devil's advocate. And so it'll go through and read my email and then say, well, in this email, you talk about this, but this doesn't really matter because of. In this email, I think you should be focused more on this because. Jeff Allen's brought up a good point too. One of the great uses that you can use for ChatGPT is creating hashtags and marketing campaigns for social media and Facebook posts and other things. And there's another really cool one that we have used. Let me see if I can pull this up. Called Perplexity. Have you ever heard of Perplexity, Corey?
Yes, I have.
So Perplexity will go on and it'll tell you, let me go right here, present. Perplexity allows us to go in and it actually does like a, it'll search the internet and find out information. And it's more web-based than what ChatGPT is. ChatGPT can kind of have a limited knowledge, especially on current events. So I can go on here and I can say,
hold on a second. I'm going to jump in really quick, Matt, because my husband was at a seminar yesterday and found out that ChatGPT only has a certain parameters of years of information. That's why it's kind of limited. But I guess the new one is going to be ChatGPT 4, I believe the number 4, which is actually accessing the internet now. So it'll be able to have a broader spectrum of information to pull from.
So it goes on and it'll tell me, it'll use Bing now because Microsoft invested a ton of money. But I just went on to Perplexity. I said, what can you tell me about Calvin Harrell from SPAC? And it'll go, it pulls up some pictures here. Calvin Harrell, notable figure from SPAC, American football player. Okay. Played running back, goes through, and then I can go in and say, it'll give you follow-up questions about people. This is a amazing, can you tell me about photography? So it'll go in and search out all of these details and it lays it in. And what's kind of neat about it is that it gives you the footnotes. So on each one of these two, I can go in and click like, okay, this is, and it takes me to the web page that it found that it got the information from.
Talk about research. Can you imagine being in college and being able to do all the research literally like on one site and then just have to follow up with reading all the articles?
Well, and also just
no longer, I guess Microsoft Fish. Remember the Fish? You're too young, Matt. But you have to go to the library and you'd have to look at these like old things to see the old articles from the papers.
It's an interesting concept because what I think it allows me to do too is like, if I'm going in to meet with a new principal and I've never met with him, I can go on and search, what can you tell me about the principal at this school? And it's going to give me a level of research so I can start asking questions without kind of limping around trying to find something to talk about. I can say, hey, I heard you went to the University of Minnesota. That's where I went to school. Where did you stay on campus? Or, you can start kind of learning some things about people going in, and it takes down that initial buffer of learning learning about people. And I use the
I
free
could
version.
also just do it about the school. Hey, I heard that 3 years ago you got an academic la 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 loo, or I see here that your band really went to state or whatever, so that you walk in already knowing something about the school itself.
Absolutely. And things like that are the kind of ways that we can leverage this into being a real tool that can make a difference in our businesses much faster than we ever thought. I do want to show you one more thing that was kind of funny on this. So we went into share screen. Let's go to ChatGPT. So one of the things that I do have 2 accounts. So I did set up my employees. We have a customer service one, and then I have a personal one from before. But one of the things that we talked about before that was so crazy was I was talking to Calvin, and we were talking about these boxes that we got delivered to that we ordered from a company. And we had these like really nice boxes with our branding put on. And Calvin was telling me a long time ago about how there was a really cool box that was delivered to schools that was designed like a school box, like a school bus. And so one of the things that's really kind of crazy about this is you can go in and you can say, can you help me design a box that looks like a school bus and will hold candy in the middle. Oops. And this software will actually go in and tell you, it'll help you build it out. And we were talking in a matter of 10 minutes, it gave me full schematics to send my box producer, fold lines, total size, cuts. It's incredible. So going into
what about companies that provide customizable boxes?
Well, so what this does is, years ago, if you wanted to try to do this, this would take a week, and you'd have to hire an engineer, and you'd have to go in and figure out people that could kind of understand this process. Let me see if I can find where this.
Hi, Len. I see you. I popped your comment up. Good to see you, Len.
Oh, Len's in here.
Len is watching.
Yeah, what up, Len?
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is. Look at the box. Look at the candy box.
But it'll go in and it'll break down. Like you can get in and say, and have it give you the fold lines and everything. It is, it's incredible, the creativity that it's kind of allowing us to run. Yes, Mike, you can have whatever you want. I can't say no to you. Yeah, as far as the other stuff that you guys should all check out with ChatGPT, honestly, like get on and play around. Get on and play around with it. You guys, you should be using it. Do not be afraid of this as a tool. One of the other, this is actually a pretty big question, and I'll show you one more thing that we did with it that was probably the best use that I've used when I first started using it. Was I went on and I asked ChatGPT, my business is growing, and I talked to my attorney. He goes, you need an employee handbook, man. And he goes, I want to write an employee handbook for you. And my attorney's not very, he's pretty expensive. And so what I did was I went in and I wrote, I need to write an employee handbook to protect my employees and my small business. Ask me as many questions as you need to to help me write this. And then it rattles off. What's your mission statement? What's your company values? What's your company history? What are the employee basics? Are they at-will employees? Are you an equal opportunity employer? What kind of accommodations do you offer for people with disabilities? Job classifications. Can you describe different employment classifications used at your company? Work hours and schedules, attendance, remote work policy, dress code, compensation, benefits. It rattles through everything. So I wrote this, and it took me hours of sitting down to go through and start crafting my responses on this and making sure that I was writing kind of what our benefit packages look like, how people do take off work, how we do this. So I built out this massive employee handbook, and then I sent it to my lawyer. Like, because I'm not going to trust ChatGPT as my legal advisor.
Right.
But it helped me find my voice, and it helped me give a framework to my attorney. So instead of hiring my attorney to ask me all the same questions for him to write it, to be able to go through it, I was able to give him the guidance of, 100%. Always read any response you receive to make sure that it's accurate. Not only that, don't just read it. If it's something that's going to be a contract, send it in. Get it checked by a real attorney. If you're like, you need to read these things, you need to make it sound like it is you. It should not be a one-stop shop where you're just clicking and sending. It's not for that. None of this AI stuff is. There's a lawyer that got in a bunch of trouble because they were turning in case law in an actual legal proceeding, a trial. And it turns out, like, they were citing, they never happened. They were fake, and he never did his research. So do your research, do your homework. This isn't a free pass, but it should help you. And
it's an assistant.
Yeah. And so for me, being able to prepare this and then write this kind of document and then go in, play devil's advocate. What did we leave out? Anything that we missed? How would you rewrite this? Is this a good, well thought out document? And getting all that feedback so that when I went to present it to my attorney, I felt like I was giving him something that was really the best version of what I could produce on my own, knowing that I still needed to trust his expertise. Like, it just helped me. It just helped me get there faster, and it saved me a lot of money. And it also gave me ownership and making sure that I felt like I was really involved in the crafting of our employee handbook. So
you said save money, because to be honest with you, having a lawyer review something and edit it is a lot faster than him having to create it himself.
Yep.
Or herself. Yeah.
Yep. And not to deter people from not using an attorney still, you always got to get your stuff reviewed. But man, there wasn't a ton of stuff that was like missing, and not a ton of stuff that needed to be tweaking. And there were a couple of things that I'm glad we had him look at it. But it like Mike's saying, it does provide us the foundation to build upon. So otherwise, I think we talked about how we use it for customer service, how you can remove emotion from reading emails, and making sure that you are still able to provide an empathetic response. We talked about how it can help you craft messaging to new clients and current clients. We talked about how it'll improve your operational efficiency and the speed that you're doing it. You can even, if you want to, trust it with sharing some, like, I know people have put financial documents on it and said, how am I doing? And have it act as a CFO and review their financials and say where their profits and investments should be. It's not for me yet, but that you can do that. We talked about how you can use it for code writing and innovation within your business, with helping with the photos over time, and then also with the school box design and build out. We talked about how Samsung got in a lot of trouble, and so you definitely need to be aware of what you're putting out on there. It paid attention to it, as well as the ethical considerations that come in with recording meetings and then producing those notes. It's important, but it is, part of the future and the outlook of what we're going to be dealing with. And then
I got one more.
What do you got?
Okay, so this is random, So I'm planning a trip for my family to Europe, and some of the countries I know very well, and I know where we're going, but some I've never been to. So I asked ChatGPT to give me highlights of things that are really we like certain types of art, like we like different good food places that are not your we want hole in the walls, right? We want authentic food. So I asked for places what to see. I asked for historical information so I could pass it on to my kids. I asked for recommendations on where to stay that would be close to the train station since we're using the train. That definitely has, like, we need in Europe, sometimes you don't always get queen or king size beds. So I asked all of that, and ChatGPT can lay out a trip, give you suggestions of where to eat, things not to miss. If you need to get a ticket for the Mona Lisa, it gives you the link to go get the ticket for the Mona Lisa. You can use it in different ways. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. Mike used it to write a script for his company holiday video. It was historical. They had a ton of fun. I like to do that sometimes when me and my buddies are hanging out and just having fun. We'll go on and we'll say, write a song about this as Taylor Swift if we'd like to see the songs that it kind of produces, and it'll give us lyrics, and it's great. Or we'll say, write this as Drake. And so it really can be a lot of fun. But I think that, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, we are barely got our toes over the edge on this AI stuff. Like, it's gonna be so crazy, and it's gonna change so many jobs, and I think it's going to happen really quick. And so, like, look at even within our industry, look at Skylab and the stuff they were able to innovate with AI. It's such a huge space. And so all I wanted to do today was kind of initiate the conversation for people who haven't started playing around with it and understand some of the things you can do with it. But man, if you are a smaller business and you need some help to start running bigger and start feeling like you're making some changes and reaching out and help you develop a strategy and really just be able to even have an artificial intelligent sounding board that you can bounce ideas off of. And hey, man, I'm trying to figure this out. How should I do this? How should I, like, what do we want to do with this? This is really kind of an awesome new way to start that process. So I think that wraps our first Tech Tuesday.
That's right. Our first Tech Tuesday. I want to thank Calvin, who's been behind the scenes kind of plugging in some information. We will be back next week with a SPAC Chat Live with Calvin again, and we will see Matt next second Tuesday next month for another Tech Tuesday. If you have any suggestions, you want anything for us to research and feature, you can always send me an email. We love when we hear from our community. Okay, right, everybody, that's it, Matt. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Peace out, everybody. Have a wonderful day, everybody. See you next Tuesday.
See ya.